In the first part of the course, we have seen different technologies and different kinds of fuel that we can use in transportation. And now it's time to put them all together and see which of them are preferable for our region. All of the energy sources and all the technologies has pros and cons, and only knowing all these pros and cons, we will be able to decide which of them is the best for us. In this chapter, we are going to analyze all these energy fuels and all these technologies, and we are going to see the impact that they have and the benefits that they can provide us. Okay, let's start by taking a look at the general picture. Well, this is the structure of what we have been talking about in the previous videos. First of all, we have different technologies that can be used in transportation. We have on one side the electrical technology that uses batteries. On the other side, we have the internal combustion engines that can be modified in order to use different other fuels, like for example ammonia. And we have fuel cells that are the ones that can use directly the hydrogen, for example. So these are the technologies that we can use. On the other side, we have the energy carriers, that are the fuels that take the energy from the source, and then they can be used in the vehicles. These energy carriers can be, on one side we have the batteries and the electricity. This is one of the carriers that we can use. On the other side, we can use hydrogen directly, or we can use it indirectly by the use, for example, of ammonia or synthetic fuels. And finally, we have the possibility to generate biofuels from our crops that can be used in the combustion engines. Okay, all these are energy carriers in the sense that we do not obtain it directly, but we need an energy source in order to generate it, to fabricate it. Okay. These energy sources are the ones that in this chapter we want to focus on, is the different types of energy that can be used to generate all these energy carriers. Well, on one side we have the renewable sources like hydropower, like solar power or wind power. These are the renewable energy sources. On the other side, we have nuclear power that it's also well developed in some countries. We can also have the carbon capture the technology in order to use fossil fuels, but capturing the carbon dioxide and not emitting to the atmosphere. And finally, we can use biofuels that we know that they are developed from crops or from waste obtained from crops. Well, this is the general picture. We are going to analyze the energy sources in order to know which of these sources are the ones that are more convenient for us. So at the end, we have an energy mix that we can use, but we have to decide which of them we can use in our region, and that's the main goal of this chapter. Well, let's start by the fuel that we want to replace, because first of all we have to know the pros and cons of this fuel, because at the end is the one that we want to replace. First of all, the fossil fuels are fully developed. This means that you can go wherever you want and you will find your gasoline for your car, and this means that is reliable. You can go wherever you want. You know that you will not be stopped. So you can access to gasoline in all the world. The other thing is that is cheap enough. So even the gasoline, even the petrol, even the oil is raising the price. It's still cheap. So if we compare with other technologies that are more expensive, gasoline can be bought by almost everybody. So it's still cheap enough to be used globally. Well, the cons is that, well, we know that it's the main contributor to climate change. So that's the reason why we want to change this energy source, because if it was not like this, we will still be using it. The other thing is that it's not renewable, even if we didn't want to, if we didn't want to change it. It will be exhausted, so at the end it will be finished. And the other thing is that it's not sustainable. So maintaining an economy based on oil, it's not a sustainable way of living. Well, let's start by the first and the most similar energy source, that is biofuel. You know, is using crops to obtain the fuel. The good thing of this energy source is that it can be produced in various ways. So you can do it from soybean, from maize. There are different ways to obtain biofuel. There are different crops that can be used. The other thing is that it can be produced locally. Each country can produce itself biofuel. So this is a good thing, because it makes you not depending on third countries. And also it can stimulate the local economy, because if you are if your people is doing your combustible, your fuel, at the end your economy will be improved. But it has cons that are very dangerous. So first of all, it requires land conversion. This means that you have to use the land. So maybe to do your crops, you will remove some forest, and this is a land conversion, or you replace some other crop that is used for feeding. And this is something that is dangerous, and it connects with second cons. That second con is that as it can replace other crops, it can affect the production of feeding, and it can affect the prices for feeding. So this is a dangerous thing. And obviously that currently are scarce, so it's not a fully developed technology, so we cannot produce all the biofuel that we want. So right now is scarce. So let's go a little bit in deep on these problems. This is the picture of the main problem of these biofuels, is that you can use the same crop can be used to produce biofuel or to produce feeding. In this case, maize can be used to produce tortillas that in fact is one of the food products that it can be affected so much by the production of biofuels. Here, for example, you can see the price of the corn, of the maize, the evolution of the price of the maize in the years, and we have seen here, we can see that there are different peaks that are related with several global policies that has been applied that has affected so much the corn price. For example, this peak is due to United States change of policy regarding biofuels. On March in 2007, there was one day where George Bush says that they want to produce 35 billion gallons of biofuel, and this, so immediately this affected the corn price. This makes that the tortilla price rise immediately. So this tells us that our policies with respect to the production of biofuel can affect the price of the feeding. So we have to be very cautious about the replacing of our crops for doing biofuel. Well, the good thing of, as I said, the good thing of biofuels is that we will, so if we use biofuels, we are not depending on the oil producers. You know that this geopolitics game depends so much on which are the producers and which are the users that use these products, and well, these biofuels will reduce this or the impact of this geopolitics. So if you can use the biofuel that you use, that you generate, so this relaxes a little bit the impact of one countries over the others. Well, let's change to the renewable energy sources. There are three main renewable sources: the hydropower, the solar, and the wind power. Well, let's see the pros and cons of all of them. Well, hydroelectricity, so hydropower is fully renewable, so it means that it will never be so it's limited, but you will ever have water in your rivers in order to get hydropower. It's cheap once you build it. So building is not cheap, but once you have built it, it's very cheap to produce hydropower. It can be produced locally, so you don't need to transport it from one side to the other. So you can produce it in your rivers. In each country can have its rivers, and then it can be used for irrigation, because as you have a dam and you have the water control in one place, you can use this water for irrigation. So these are very good things of this technology. Well, on the other side, it depends on the hydrology of and the geography. Not all the countries can have access to enough hydropower, so this is one limiting factor. The other is that building a dam is expensive. So, as I said, it's cheap once it's built, but to build it is very expensive. To build a very large dam. It can produce methane in warm regions, because at the bottom of the dam, the rotted material can produce methane, and this is, as you know, a greenhouse gas that, in principle, we should avoid the production of this gas, and obviously this is a cons of this technology. But it's only in warm regions, in the tropical region. In other places, this is not a problem. And well, it can. So the water, it can be evaporated in these dams, because you have the quiet water. If you have a very sunny day, water can be evaporated, and this is another con that we should avoid. And the other thing is that the land damage. Obviously, these drone regions are damaged, and this is another bad thing about this technology. Well, let's go to the solar power. It's also renewable. It's clean. And mostly it's inexhaustible. So the energy from the sun is very high. So there is a lot of energy coming from the sun, and you will never exhaust this energy. So this is a very reliable energy source. And that's the main pros of this technology. And also it can be produced locally. So everybody with a solar panel can produce this kind of energy. The bad thing is that it's intermittent. Obviously, we have a night and day cycle. So during the night we cannot generate energy. And the other thing is that the clouds, it can reduce the efficiency of these plants, because obviously the clouds impede the path of the energy source, and obviously so this is a con. The other bad thing is that the cost is a little bit, so it's not low, so it's medium to high. So the installation of these panels is not as cheap as it should be in order to be very used. And the other thing is that as it's intermittent, we need batteries that are expensive. If we need to use the energy at the night, we need some batteries, and these batteries are expensive. Well, the third renewable energy source is the eolic power. It's renewable, cheap, and not generate emissions. It's clean as the rest of the renewable sources, but once again, it's intermittent. Not every day is windy, so it can only be used when the wind is high. It has visual and auditory pollution, so there is people that don't like seeing these kind of structures in the natural land. It generates it's only usable in places where there is a lot of wind, so not every region can generate eolic power. And obviously, if you only generate in these places, you need to transport it from the source to the place where you want to use this energy. Well, we have seen the three main renewable energy sources, and basically we have to take care of some questions. The first one is that these plants, the plants of all this kind of energy, has an impact on natural life. For example, the eolic power can have an impact on the birds, because they can die due to these structures. And obviously the dams can affect the path of also to natural life. Everybody knows that the salmon, for example, goes up in the river, and these dams can affect the migration of these fishes. On the other side, also, we have a social impact. So everybody wants renewable energy, but when renewable energy plants are near your city, there are always people that don't want it. So this is another thing that we have to consider, so everybody wants it, but far away from their home. So this is another question that we have to face when we build power plants based on these technologies. Well, let's go to another kind of energy source, that is a nuclear plant. A nuclear plant is a source of energy that does not emit greenhouse gases. The gas that you see in a nuclear plant is just water, so in this respect, the carbon dioxide emission is neutral, the nuclear plant. It can give a very high power, so the amount of power that can give a nuclear plant is so high, so it's a very important energy source, and it's cheap and reliable once we have the plant. So the problem with these plants is that are very expensive to build. So a nuclear plant is one of the most expensive plants that it can be built due to all these security issues that it can have. It's not renewable, despite uranium can give a lot of energy. It's limited, so we don't have all the uranium that we want. So the amount of uranium is limited. It generates nuclear waste that is a very dangerous waste. It's not affecting. So this kind of waste is not affecting the atmosphere in the sense of the greenhouse effect, but is a very dangerous waste that it needs. So we need to consider. So we need to put this wasted in controlled places. And the most important cons that nuclear power has is that it can cause a disaster. So everybody knows the disasters of Chernobyl and Fukushima. So there are two disasters that a nuclear plant can produce. So it can happen. These things can happen. So if we want to use the nuclear plants, so they are they can give you a lot of energy, but it can also be disastrous. So this should be also considered when building a nuclear plant. Well, we have talked about all of the different strategies and the different technologies and the different fuels that we can use to give energy to our transportation system, and now it's time to see which of them are in fact used and which are the changes that we have to do in our transport system. And here you can see the evolution of the energy that we have used in the transportation. We see, as I said in the first chapter, that it's increasing and increasing year by year. But the point here is that only the last two at the top are related with technologies that are not don't have a high impact on our environment. Only these two here, that are the electrical and the biofuel. All the rest are technologies related with the oil, the gasoline, so all of these are fuels that are related with fossil fuels. So if we want to change our transport system in order not to have an impact in our environment, we need to increase this size and reduce this size. And as you can see, this is a huge work that it has to be done. So still there is a lot of fuels that are still based on fossil fuel, and this plot tells us that there is a lot of work to be done. Well, just to give the final figures, these are the different amounts of the different kinds of energy that we can produce by source. Look at these. The three at the top are fossil fuel related, so it's natural gas, it's coal, or it's oil. So these are the most used. These are the ones that are related with or there are renewable sources and nuclear plants source. And here you can see the amount of energy that we need for transportation. So here again we can see the work that it has to be done to change the impact, to reduce, to mitigate the impact of transport in our environment. Well, in conclusion, all power sources has pros and cons, all the power sources that we can use in transportation, and not all the energy sources can cover all our demands. So these are things that we have to consider. And when we design our energy sources in our countries, we have to do it in terms of what resources we have access to. So which are the resources that are more abundant in our country, and at the end, combining different sources is the best option, because there is not a single energy source that can give all the energy that we require for transport.